Right, just slide over. A little, Cale winced, trying to wedge his diagnostic scanner between a pools-in conduit bundle and what looked suspiciously like an organic interface port humming with faint teal light. The cockpit wasn't designed for two, especially not when one occupant was a 7-foot-tall alien warrior woman practically fused into the command chair, scales shimmering like oil on water under the dim emergency lighting. She shifted, a low rumble vibrating through the metal deck beneath his boots. Her tail, thick and powerful with iridescent blue fins along its ridge, twitched, nearly taking out his kneecap. "Hey, watch the merchandise," he yelped, snatching his leg back. Her head, framed by a crest of smooth, obsidian-like plates that flared slightly, tilted. Large, luminous green eyes, vertically slit like a reptile's, narrowed. A series of soft clicks echoed in the confined space, her version of a chuckle, maybe. Or maybe she was contemplating the best way to dismember him. Hard to tell with the Zalosians, especially this one, Xyler. Even her name sounded sharp. "You intrude, little Terran," her voice resonated, not just in the air but somehow through the metal around them, a low thrumming bass note under synthesized words. "My vessel requires delicate hands. Are yours delicate?" Cale bristled, holding up his grease-stained fingers. "Delicate enough to stitch this walking scrap heap back together. Which is more than your last mechanic managed, apparently." He gestured vaguely at the sparking console and the cracked canopy overlooking the desolate asteroid field outside the docking bay of the rusty Nebula scavenger station. "Look, your boss, Grok, paid me half up front for this patch job. I just want to get it done, get the other half, and get off this flying tetanus trap. So cooperate, or maybe just photosynthesize quietly over there." Xyler's crest flared wider, the bioluminescent patterns swirling along her neck and shoulders intensifying from teal to a vibrant emerald. "My symbiont requires precise calibration, Terran, not brute force." She tapped a clawed finger against the armrest, which seemed to ripple in response, flowing around her digits like liquid metal before solidifying again. "And I am not decorative cargo," he snorted. "Could have fooled me. You haven't moved from that chair since I got here." He knew the rumors Zalosian battle weavers bonded with their warframes, becoming almost one entity. Seeing it up close was something else. Weird and unsettlingly intimate. Her gaze swept over him, lingering a moment too long on the pulse point in his neck. "Patience is a virtue, Terran Cale, and proximity builds understanding." Understanding, or indigestion. He jammed the scanner against the port. It whined, spitting error codes across his handheld display. "Yeah, well, proximity is also building a serious need for deodorant in this tin can." He fiddled with the settings, trying to bypass the alien encryption. "Seriously, what did you people do to this thing? Looks like you tried to fly it through a star." A low growl this time, deeper, vibrating his teeth. "We encountered resistance." Her voice was tight. The emerald glow pulsed faster. He risked a glance at her. Her posture was rigid, coiled tension in the lines of her powerful shoulders. Whatever resistance was, it had clearly left its mark, not just on the heavily scarred mech frame outside, but on her too. He felt a flicker of something that wasn't annoyance. Curiosity, maybe, stupid, dangerous curiosity. Right, resistance. You Zalosians have a talent for understatement, don't you? He finally got a clean reading. The core systems were a mess, energy relays fried, stabilization gyros offline. But the neural interface, that was the real nightmare. It was interwoven with her own biosignature. Repairing the mech meant getting disturbingly close to her. "Okay," he sighed, wiping sweat from his brow. "Looks like I need access to the primary neural junction. That's up, probably right under your—" He trailed off, pointing vaguely toward her lap. Xyler's lips, thin and dark, curled slightly. The emerald glow brightened, tinged now with streaks of electric blue. "Is that a problem, Terran?" He definitely had a problem. Several, in fact. First, the primary neural junction was located directly beneath Xyler's command chair, requiring him to essentially crawl under her. Second, the access panel was magnetically sealed and keyed to her biosignature, meaning she had to open it. Third, every time he got within 2 feet of her, the air crackled with a weird energy, making the hair on his arm stand up and his scanner spit gibberish. "It's inconvenient," Cale muttered, trying to sound professional while feeling acutely aware of her intense gaze tracking his every move. He crouched down, tools clanking against his belt. "Okay, Majesty, if you wouldn't mind." Xyler didn't move immediately. She studied him, her head tilted again, the strange clicking sound returning, softer this time. "You are small," she observed, the synthesized voice flat, yet somehow conveying faint amusement. "Compact," Kale corrected, trying to ignore the heat rising in his face. "Efficient, built for tight spaces, unlike some people's giant, space-hogging war machines." He gestured around the cramped cockpit. Seriously, was ergonomics just a suggestion during the design phase? Her lips twitched again. A low hum emanated from her, and the floor panel beneath her chair shimmered, then retracted smoothly into the deck, revealing a tangle of crystalline conduits and fiber-optic bundles pulsing with soft, multicolored light. The air filled with the scent of ozone and something else, something faintly floral and metallic. Her scent? Weird. He took a breath, steeling himself, and slid into the narrow space. It was worse than he thought. He was practically nose to kneecap with her scaled legs, the intricate patterns of her bioluminescence casting shifting shadows over his face. Her tail rested coiled near his shoulder, the tip occasionally flicking against his arm like an impatient cat's. "Just need to reroute this primary relay," he mumbled, more to himself than to her, fumbling with a delicate pair of micro-pliers. Easy peasy. It wasn't easy. The Xylosian tech was elegant but bafflingly complex, layers of biocircuitry woven with traditional hardware. His universal translator struggled with the system diagnostics, spitting out cryptic warnings about resonance incompatibility and symbiotic feedback loops. He reached for a specific conduit, a thick silvery cable humming with power. As his fingers brushed against it, a jolt, stronger than static electricity, shot up his arm. "Ow, Criff." He snatched his hand back, shaking it. Above him, Xyler hissed, a sharp intake of breath, her whole body going rigid. The lights in the cockpit flickered violently, and the emerald glow on her skin flared supernova bright before dimming rapidly to a dull, muddy brown. "What was that?" Kale demanded, scrambling back slightly. Her voice, when it came, was strained, raspy. "You touched the heartline." "The what?" "It's a power conduit. It channels bioenergy, my energy, our energy." Breathing was shallow. The patterns on her skin remained dull. He frowned, looking from the cable back to her. He hadn't just shocked himself, he'd somehow affected her. "Okay," he said slowly. "New plan, you tell me exactly what to touch and what not to touch." A long silence stretched, filled only by the faint hum of the damaged systems. Then the clicking sound again, hesitant this time. "Perhaps guidance is required." Her tail uncoiled deliberately, the tip brushing against the back of his hand. It wasn't threatening this time. It felt tentative. The scales were cool and smooth. He froze. Her tail tip traced the line of his knuckles, then tapped the correct conduit, a thinner, pulsing violet one nestled beside the silvery heart line. "This one," she murmured, the resonance in her voice softer. "Carefully." Kale stared at her tail resting near his hand, then forced his gaze back to the wiring. He reached out again, his fingers brushing hers, her tail, as he grasped the violet conduit. This time there was no jolt, only a faint warmth spreading from the point of contact, a subtle thrumming that seemed to echo the rhythm of her quiet breathing. The diagnostic codes on his scanner suddenly stabilized, translating into coherent data streams. He worked, her tail occasionally nudging his fingers, guiding him through the intricate connections, a silent, strangely intimate collaboration. The awkwardness was still there, but it was layered over with something else now, a fragile, unexpected connection forged in shared biofeedback in cramped spaces. He was just a mechanic, fixing a machine. But the machine and the warrior inside it were blurring at the edges. The repairs dragged on, cycle after cycle blurring into a monotonous rhythm of diagnostics, rerouting and recalibration, punctuated by tense silences and awkward proximity. Kale learned to navigate the cramped cockpit, developing an unwelcome awareness of Xyler's presence. The faint, ozone floral scent that clung to her, the soft shifting sounds as she adjusted her position, the way the bioluminescent patterns on her scales would subtly change hue with her apparent mood. Teal for calm, emerald for focus or annoyance, electric blue for something he hadn't quite deciphered yet, but it usually involved her staring at him intently. He tried to keep the banter going, his usual defense mechanism. "So this heart line," he said, carefully splicing a microfilament, her tail resting lightly on his forearm, guiding his angle. "Is that standard, or did you get the deluxe emotional trauma package?" Her tail twitched, a flicker of emerald light running its length. "It signifies the bond between weaver and frame. It is sacred. Sacred. Looks like a glorified battery cable to me." He deliberately kept his tone light, ignoring the sudden intensity in her luminous green eyes fixed on the back of his head. "Yours seems a bit frayed. Maybe the bond's weakening. Time to trade up for a newer model." A low growl vibrated through the deck. "The bond is eternal. The frame is damaged, not discarded." He risked a sideways glance. Her jaw was tight, the obsidian crest plate slightly flared. Definitely hit a nerve. "Right, eternal," he backtracked quickly. "Loyalty, good trait, commendable, even in oversized, walking death machines." He refocused on his work, feeling her gaze still on him. After a moment the growl subsided, replaced by the soft clicking. "You mock Terran Kale, but you do not understand." "Enlighten me then. What's so special about being hardwired into your ride?" She shifted, the movement fluid and powerful despite the confines. "The frame is an extension of the self. We feel its strength, its injuries. It shares our triumphs, our focus." Her tail tip brushed his wrist, sending that weird, tingling warmth through him again. "When properly attuned, the connection is profound." "Profound," he echoed skeptically, though the memory of that shared jolt, that feedback loop, prickled at the edge of his thoughts. He finished the splice, carefully sealing it. "Okay, power coupling reestablished. Let's see if this blew anything else up." He reached for the diagnostic console, but her tail blocked his hand. "Wait." He looked up, surprised. Her eyes were fixed on his hand, the emerald glow deepening. "Your energy signature, it is imprinted on the relay now." "My what? I just touched it." "You connected with it while I guided." Her gaze lifted to meet his. "The frame recognizes you." Kale stared at her. "Recognizes me? It's a machine, Xyler." "Circuits and wires." "More than machine," she insisted, her voice low and resonant. "It has awareness, an echo of the weaver's spirit. Now it echoes yours as well." He wanted to laugh it off, dismiss it as alien superstition. But the persistent thrumming sensation under his skin when he worked near the core systems, the way the diagnostic readouts seemed almost responsive, it was getting harder to ignore. "Great," he muttered, pulling his hand back. "So now I'm accidentally dadding your giant killer robot. Fantastic, just what my life needed." Xyler's lips curled, a definite smirk this time, revealing the tips of sharp white teeth. The bioluminescence shifted, swirling patterns of emerald and that intriguing electric blue. "Perhaps the frame has good taste, Terran." He felt his face heat up again. "Damn it. Just let me run the diagnostics, okay?" He tapped commands into the console, trying to ignore the way her tail tip was now gently stroking the back of his hand, sending little sparks along his nerves. This was getting complicated. Far too complicated. He was supposed to fix the mech, get paid and leave. Not get drawn into weird alien bonding rituals or flirty banter with a warrior woman who could probably snap him in half. But as the diagnostics ran, showing stable power flow through the repaired relay, a grudging sense of satisfaction bloomed in his chest. And beneath it, something else. Something warmer, more dangerous. A connection he hadn't asked for, but one that was undeniably, terrifyingly real. "All right, main power core is stable," Kale announced, wiping grease off his cheek with the back of his hand, leaving a smear. "Stabilizers are, well, less unstable. We might actually be able to get this thing to stand up without it falling over and taking out half the station." He leaned back against the cockpit wall, stretching his aching muscles. Days of cramped work had taken their toll. Xyler watched him, her head tilted, the electric blue patterns swirling lazily across her shoulders and down her arms. They'd settled into a strange rhythm, him working, complaining, and occasionally poking fun at her species' apparent obsession with resonance. Her observing, occasionally guiding him with a touch of her tail, and responding with dry, synthesized pronouncements or unsettlingly accurate insights into his own guarded nature. "Your movements are stiff, Terran Kale," she observed. "Do humans require frequent joint lubrication?" He snorted. "It's called being sore." From crawling around inside your glorified tin can. He pointedly rubbed his lower back. Maybe Zelosians are inflatable, I don't know. Her lips curved in that sharp-toothed smile again. We maintain flexibility. Her tail snaked out fast and precise and tapped a spot low on his spine. A surprising jolt, not painful but intensely stimulating, shot through him, making him gasp and arch involuntarily. "Hey, a pressure point," she explained calmly, though the blue light intensified. "It eases tension." He glared at her, rubbing the spot. "It did feel looser, damn it." "Right, thanks, next time ask." "Where is the intrigue in that?" The blue pulsed, warm and inviting. He found himself staring at the shifting light, mesmerized for a second before shaking his head. "Focus, Kale, job first." He turned back to the controls. "Okay, the neural interface is still showing feedback drift. It's like it's trying to sync with me sometimes, not just you. That echo you mentioned." Xyler shifted, the command chair rippling around her. "The frame seeks balance. Your resonance is strong, unexpectedly compatible." "Compatible, I'm just the repair guy. You touch the heartline," she reminded him, her voice dropping lower, the resonance vibrating pleasantly in his bones. "You shared the repair. You are part of the equation now." He ran a hand through his hair, exasperated. "This is ridiculous. I can't be part of the equation. I have a life, plans. Plans that don't involve being psychically tethered to scrap metal. Perhaps your plans are insufficient." Her gaze was direct, challenging. He opened his mouth to retort, but the proximity alarm suddenly blared, bathing the cockpit in harsh red light. "Intruder alert!" The station's automated voice crackled over the comms. "Unidentified vessel approaching docking bay 7. Kale's head snapped toward the cracked canopy. A sleek gunmetal gray ship bristling with weapons was maneuvering aggressively just outside the station's viewport. Scavenger markings, but meaner looking than Grok's usual clientele. "Criff," he swore. "Looks like Resistance found you again." Xyler was already alert, her body taut, the bioluminescent patterns flashing urgent crimson. "They track the frame's energy signature," she hissed. "We are exposed. Can this thing move?" Kale demanded, already flipping switches, trying to bring defensive systems online. "Partially. Weapons. Minimal power, shields are offline." "Great, just great." Heavy magnetic clangs echoed from outside, docking clamps forcing their way onto the station hull near their bay. "They're boarding," Kale yelled. "We need to get this thing out of here. Can you initiate emergency launch?" Xyler's claws flew over her controls, but warning symbols flashed across the main screen. "Launch sequence locked. Station security override. Override the override. Requires command authentication." "Well, authenticate." Her head whipped around, crimson light flaring in her eyes. "The frame, it requires your imprint now as well. From the relay, it needs us." He stared at her, the implication hitting him like a physical blow. The accidental connection, the echo, it wasn't just a glitch. It was a security protocol, a consequence of their shared work, their forced proximity. "You're kidding me." Heavy footsteps pounded on the metal gangway outside the cockpit hatch. "No time," Xyler urged, extending her hand toward a specific glowing panel on his side of the console. "Place your hand here. Attune with me now." His heart hammered against his ribs. This was insane. He was a tech, a scavenger, not a mech pilot, not a warrior. But the pounding was getting closer, and the look in Xyler's eyes was desperate, fierce. He slapped his hand onto the panel. The moment his palm hit the glowing panel, sensation exploded through him. It wasn't just the jolt of energy he'd felt before. It was a flood, a tidal wave of data, raw feeling, and alien consciousness pouring into his mind, overlaid with the deep, thrumming hum of the massive machine around them. He felt the mech's weight, the strain on its damaged joints, the thrum of its barely contained power core. And woven through it all, Xyler. Her focus, sharp and lethal as a honed blade. Her fierce determination. Her pain from old wounds, both physical and deeper. Her awareness of him, startlingly intense, a complex mix of curiosity, irritation, and a spark of something that felt alarmingly like possessiveness. He gasped, stumbling back mentally, overwhelmed. "Focus, Kale." Xyler's voice cut through the chaos in his head, both spoken aloud and echoing directly in his thoughts via the neural link. "Synchronize, feel the frame, command it." Command. He didn't know how. But the pounding on the cockpit hatch intensified, metal groaning under heavy blows. Instinct took over. He pushed past the sensory overload, focusing on the immediate need escape. He visualized the docking clamps releasing, the mech pushing away from the station, the damaged thrusters firing just enough to get clear. Energy surged through the panel under his hand, flowing out into the machine. On the main screen, icons flashed green. Command accepted. Kale/Xyler Collective. The mech lurched, the docking clamps shearing off with a screech of tortured metal. Outside the canopy, the asteroid field tilted violently as the war machine clumsily shoved itself clear of the rusty nebula. "Thrusters!" Kale yelled, half aloud, half thought. The mech responded sluggishly, damaged engines sputtering but propelling them slowly away from the station. The hostile ship fired, laser bolts stitching across their retreating path, scoring hits on the station's already battered hull. "Shields!" he thought, shouted at Xyler through the link. "Shields offline. Power diverted to propulsion and life support. Minimal weapons available." Her reply came instantly, cool and efficient within his mind, a stark contrast to the sensory overload. He could feel her assessing threats, calculating trajectories, her tactical mind working at incredible speed. He was just holding on, channeling intent. Another blast from the pursuing ship rocked the mech, sending sparks cascading from an overhead panel. Pain flared through the link. Xyler's pain mirrored in the machine's damage reports, a sharp burning sensation along her left side. "They're targeting weapon systems," she sent, her mental voice tight. "We cannot outrun them like this." "We need to fight back," Kale countered, scanning the rudimentary weapons display that had flickered to life on his console. A single, low-power plasma cannon on the right arm seemed operational. "Aim!" He focused his intent, visualizing the enemy ship in the targeting reticle. He felt Xyler's immediate compliance, her own focus sharpening the targeting solution, guiding the massive arms movement with a practiced grace that belied the machine's damaged state. "Target locked. Firing authorization required." The system prompted, demanding input from both of them. "Authorize," they chorused, the thought and words simultaneous. Cannon fired, a lance of blue-white energy streaking across the void. It struck the smaller ship's engine nacelle, causing a bright flare and sending it spinning, momentarily disabled. A surge of fierce, triumphant satisfaction flooded the neural link from Xyler, potent and intoxicating. It mixed with Kale's own adrenaline rush, creating a dizzying, intense high. He felt powerful, connected, not just to the machine but to her. They were a unit, raw and barely functional, but a unit nonetheless. The cockpit was silent for a moment, save for the hum of stressed systems and their ragged breathing. The link between them pulsed, no longer overwhelming but a steady, thrumming presence. Kale looked at Xyler. Her crimson glow had softened back to emerald, laced with the vibrant blue he was starting to associate with arousal, approval. Her eyes met his, luminous and intense. "You adapt quickly, Terran Kale," she murmured, her voice carrying both awe and something else, something predatory. He swallowed, his throat suddenly dry. The fight was over for now. But the connection, the intensity sparked between them in the heat of battle, lingered, thick and charged in the small space. This wasn't just fixing a machine anymore. He'd plugged himself in, and he wasn't sure he could ever fully disconnect. The adrenaline drained away, leaving Kale shaky and strangely wired. The neural link remained active, a low hum in the back of his mind, connecting him to Xyler and the silent, drifting mech. The disabled scavenger ship was tumbling slowly in the distance, no longer an immediate threat. They were alone in the void, surrounded by the silent debris of the asteroid field. He finally pulled his hand away from the command panel, the sudden silence in his head almost deafening. He looked over at Xyler. Her bioluminescent patterns had settled into a deep, swirling azure, pulsing gently. She was watching him, her expression unreadable, those slit-pupilled eyes seeming to see more than he was comfortable with. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken energy. "So," Kale said, his voice hoarse. "That was something." "Adequate," Xyler replied, the corner of her lip twitching. "For a novice." Despite the synthesized flatness, he heard the approval, the faint trace of amusement. And something else, a low thrum of satisfaction that resonated through the deck plating. He leaned back, running a hand over his face. "Adequate. We just fought off pirates in a half-broken war machine held together with spit and my questionable wiring skills. Your wiring skills are surprisingly effective, she conceded, the blue light flaring brighter for a moment. And your command instincts unexpected. She shifted in her seat, a fluid movement that brought her slightly closer. The ozone floral scent intensified. The frame responded to you, to us. He couldn't deny it. That feeling of shared intent, of combined strength, it had been terrifying and exhilarating. He felt exposed, having shared that mental space with her, letting her feel his panic, his determination. But he also felt seen, understood in a way that transcended language. Her hand, long-fingered and tipped with sharp, black claws, reached out, hovering over his armrest. The battle attunement. It creates a resonance, she explained, her voice softer, losing some of its synthesized edge, becoming more melodic, more her. A lingering charge. He could feel it, a static tension in the air between them, pulling him toward her. His gaze dropped to her hand, then back to her eyes. The blue light seemed to draw him in. This was stupid, insane. He was a loner, a scavenger who kept people at arm's length. Getting involved, especially with a formidable alien warrior who was literally plugged into a giant robot, it was peak stupid. And yet, he didn't pull away when her fingers finally brushed against his forearm. Her scales were cool, smooth, but a surprising heat radiated from her touch, sinking into his skin. The contact sent a fresh jolt through the lingering neural connection, a spark of pure sensory input that made his breath catch. Her thumb stroked lightly over his pulse point. Your heart rate is elevated, Taryn Kale. Yeah, well, he managed, his voice husky. Near-death experiences tend to do that. Is that all? Her eyes searched his, the blue deepening, swirling like nebulae. She leaned closer, invading his personal space completely now. Her scent filled his senses. He could see the intricate texture of her scales, the faint pulse of light beneath them. Her presence was overwhelming, dominant, yet strangely inviting. He should push her away. He should make a sarcastic comment, break the tension, but he didn't. He couldn't. Her other hand came up, gently tracing the line of his jaw. Her touch was surprisingly delicate, her claws carefully retracted. You intrigue me, she murmured, the vibration of her voice traveling through her fingers into his skin. Your fear, your fight, your unexpected harmony with the frame. Her face was inches from his. He could feel the warmth radiating from her. His own hand lifted, seemingly of its own accord, and rested hesitantly on her scaled hip. The texture was fascinating, smooth but segmented like fine armor. She hissed softly, a sound of pleasure this time, and arched slightly into his touch, the blue light flaring brilliantly. Impulse took over. He leaned in, closing the small distance between them. Her lips were cool and surprisingly soft against his, a stark contrast to the sharp edges of her teeth he knew were just underneath. The kiss was tentative at first, a collision of curiosity and pent-up tension. Then she made a low sound deep in her throat, a possessive growl, and deepened it, her hand sliding around the back of his neck, fingers tangling in his hair, holding him firmly. The neural link flared back to life, not with data or commands, but pure sensation. He felt her surprise, her pleasure, her sudden, fierce desire mirroring his own. It was overwhelming, intimate in a way he'd never experienced, like kissing her mind as well as her body. He groaned, pulling her closer, his hands exploring the unfamiliar contours of her scaled back, the powerful muscles beneath. Her skin was cool to the touch, but radiated an internal heat that seemed to seep into him. Her tail coiled around his leg, tightening possessively, the fins along its ridge brushing against his thigh. She broke the kiss, her breathing ragged, the blue light pulsing erratically across her skin. Her eyes were dark, pupils dilated, fixed on his mouth. More, she demanded, her voice a low, resonant command that vibrated right through him. He didn't need telling twice. He pulled her onto his lap, ignoring the awkward confines of the cockpit, the protesting creak of his seat. She came willingly, straddling him, her weight solid and reassuring. Her hands explored his chest, her claws lightly scraping through the thin fabric of his shirt, sending shivers down his spine. The contact was electric, every brush of scales against skin, every shared breath amplifying the connection between them. He fumbled with the seals on the front of her flight suit, needing to feel more than just cool scales. She watched him, a predatory glint in her eyes, making no move to help or hinder, simply observing his urgency. The suit parted, revealing skin the color of twilight, marked with swirling bioluminescent patterns that glowed brighter as his fingers traced them. Beneath the light show, her skin was warm, surprisingly soft. She shivered under his touch, a low purr rumbling in her chest that he felt as much as heard. Her hands moved lower, bold and exploratory, mapping the shape of him through his trousers. He gasped as her touch became more insistent, her claws teasingly tracing seams, sending jolts of raw need through him. The neural link pulsed with shared arousal, blurring the lines between his pleasure and hers. It was dizzying, disorienting, and utterly addictive. "You feel," she murmured, her voice thick, echoing slightly in his mind, responsive. "Yeah," he choked out, arching against her hand. "You could say that." She leaned down, her crest plates brushing against his cheek, and nipped his earlobe, sharp teeth grazing sensitive skin. "Good." Her actions were direct, efficient, almost primal in their intensity. There was no coyness, no hesitation. She wanted this, wanted him, and she took control, guiding his hands, positioning herself against him, a low growl of satisfaction escaping her as their bodies aligned. The connection through the link intensified, sensation overwhelming thought. He felt the slick heat of her, the demanding pressure, the scrape of scales against his skin. It was alien, unfamiliar, yet fundamentally, undeniably right. He cried out as she moved, a sharp, possessive rhythm that stole his breath. The blue light filling the cockpit pulsed in time with their movements, shifting, swirling, mirroring the explosive pleasure building between them. He clung to her, lost in the sensory overload, feeling her fierce satisfaction, her possessive claim, echoing through the link, binding them together in the heart of the damaged war machine. The aftermath left them tangled together in the cramped pilot's seat, Cale's breath coming in ragged gasps, Zyler's deep azure glow slowly softening to a calmer teal. The residual hum of the neural link was a soft, intimate presence, weaving their exhaustion and sated pleasure together. Zyler rested her head against his shoulder, her crest plate smooth against his skin, her tail loosely coiled around his waist. It felt surprisingly natural, comfortable even. Cale stroked her scaled back, tracing the intricate patterns, feeling the steady rhythm of her breathing. The intensity of the past few hours, the fight, the fear, the explosive intimacy had stripped away his usual defenses, leaving him feeling raw and strangely peaceful. He looked down at her, at the way the faint light caught the iridescent sheen of her scales, the sharp, elegant lines of her face now relaxed in repose. She was beautiful. Fierce, alien, dangerous, yes, but beautiful. "So," he murmured, breaking the comfortable silence. "Is this part of the battle attunement too?" She tilted her head back slightly to look at him, a faint smirk playing on her lips. "Perhaps a recalibration of resonant frequencies." He chuckled softly. "You Zalosians have a term for everything, don't you? Is there a technical term for holy criff what just happened?" Her smirk widened, revealing the tips of her teeth. "Mutual energy discharge," he snorted. "Sounds about right." He hesitated, then asked, "That link when we were, you know?" "Yes, Cale." Her gaze was steady, searching. "I felt everything, what you were feeling." She nodded slowly, her expression serious now. "The link deepens with shared intensity, combat, pleasure, pain. It bypasses filters, exposes the core." He swallowed, unnerved but also intrigued. "So you felt your surprise," she confirmed. "Your hesitation, your eventual enthusiasm." The teal light flickered with hints of blue again. "And you felt mine." He nodded, remembering the wave of her possessiveness, her fierce satisfaction. It was unnerving being that open, that connected to someone else's raw emotions. But it was also profound, just as she'd said. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "The frame, why did it latch onto me?" Zyler shifted, sitting up slightly, though she didn't break contact, her hand resting on his chest. "The frame is ancient, damaged, scarred like its weaver." Her gaze became distant for a moment. "It seeks stability, compatibility. Your energy signature, it resonated with the frame's core matrix during the repair, and with mine." She looked back at him, her eyes intense. "The heartline recognized you. The combat required you. The bond, it formed because it needed to." "Needed to survive," she stated simply. "And perhaps for other reasons." She traced the edge of his jawline with a clawed finger. "My people, we do not bond easily, Cale. Not with machines, not with others." But when we do, it is deep, irrevocable, irrevocable. The word hung in the air. He wasn't just the mechanic anymore. He wasn't just the guy who'd accidentally helped pilot the mech. Through shared crisis and unexpected intimacy, something fundamental had shifted. He was tied to her, to this machine, in a way he didn't fully understand but couldn't deny. "And this Supreme Commander thing the system flashed?" he asked, trying to inject some levity though his voice was tight. "Was that a glitch?" Zyler's expression turned serious. "No glitch. The frame requires a unified command structure, especially when attuned to two weavers. It registered your unexpected tactical input, your control during the engagement." She paused, her gaze searching his. "It recognizes your authority, Kale, linked through me, yes, but distinct. You initiated the escape. You directed the weapon. In the absence of a higher Zalosian authority, the frame defaulted to the present command synergy. So I'm accidentally in charge of a Zalosian war machine. You are co-commander," she corrected, though the blue flickered again. "For now, your authority is provisional, dependent on continued resonance." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a low murmur. "And my approval, of course." Despite the absurdity, a strange sense of responsibility settled over him. He looked around the cockpit at the damaged consoles, the cracked canopy showing the stardusted void. This wasn't just Zyler's fight anymore. It was theirs. "Okay," he sighed, meeting her intense gaze. "Okay, co-commander, what now?" "Now," Zyler said, her voice regaining its crisp, synthesized edge as she shifted back into her command chair, the liquid metal flowing around her momentarily before solidifying. "We assess damage reports, power levels, and our pursuers." She gestured toward the main screen where the tumbling scavenger ship was still visible, though distant. "They will recover. They will report our location, our capabilities." Kale nodded, forcing himself back into practical mode, pushing the lingering intimacy and the bewildering implications of their bond to the back of his mind. "Right, diagnostics." He activated his console, the familiar routines a welcome anchor. "Power core is holding at 60%. Life support stable. Propulsion is minimal, those thrusters took a beating." He frowned at the readings. "And the weapons array is still mostly offline. That plasma cannon was basically a lucky shot." Zyler's claws flew over her own controls, bringing up complex schematics overlaid with damage indicators. "Hull integrity is compromised in sectors 4 and 7 Alpha. The primary shield emitter is irreparable without shipyard facilities." She paused, her crest plates flaring slightly as a new alert flashed. "And they have launched repair drones." Kale zoomed the external view. Small, spider-like drones were emerging from the hostile ship, heading towards its damaged engine. Criff. "How long until they're mobile?" "Estimating repair sufficient for basic maneuverability within 2 standard hours," Zyler reported, her tone grim. "Pursuit within 3. We can't fight them again like this," Kale stated the obvious. "And we can't outrun them." He looked around the cockpit, then at Zyler. "Where were you even going before you docked at the nebula? You said you encountered resistance." "These guys," she hesitated, the teal light on her skin dimming slightly. "They are affiliated. Mercenaries, hired by those who exiled me, who seek to reclaim this frame." "Exiled?" Kale raised an eyebrow. "So you're not just some warrior, you're disgraced royalty or something." "My rank is irrelevant," she deflected, though the slight tightening around her eyes told him he'd hit close to the mark. "What matters is the frame. It is bonded to my bloodline. They cannot truly control it, but they will dissect it and me to learn its secrets if they capture us." A chilling thought. He looked at the complex, almost organic interface around her. Dissection didn't bear thinking about. "Okay, exile on the run, mercenaries hunting you, got it." He chewed his lip, thinking, "We need repairs, we need parts, and we need somewhere to lie low where those goons won't find us." "The scavenger station is compromised," Zyler pointed out. "Grok will likely cooperate with them for the right price." "Yeah, Grok's loyalty extends precisely as far as his credit balance." Kale scanned the navigation charts, filtering for nearby asteroid clusters, abandoned mining outposts, anything off the official star lanes. "There's a nebula field about 6 hours drift at current thrust designation XK7. Unstable gravitational tides, sensor interference. Pirates sometimes use it, but maybe risky," Zyler stated, "but preferable to capture." "My thoughts exactly." He started plotting a minimal energy course, trying to conserve their dwindling power. Can the frame handle the gravimetric shear? Zyler placed her hand on her console, closing her eyes for a moment. Kale felt a faint echo through the dormant link, her communicating directly with the mech, assessing its structural limits, its energy reserves. The teal light on her skin pulsed rhythmically. It will be stressful, she reported after a moment, opening her eyes, but manageable if we navigate carefully. She looked at him, a flicker of that intense blue returning. Your input will be required. The navigation system needs fine-tuning beyond my solo capabilities with this level of damage. So, co-commanding again. Precisely, she confirmed, a hint of a challenge in her tone. He met her gaze, a sense of shared purpose solidifying between them. Survival first. They could figure out the rest, the bond, the exile, the accidental command structure later. If there was a later. All right, co-commander, he said, forcing a grin. Let's go stress test this relationship. Set course for XK7. He watched her relay the coordinates, her movements economical and precise. A warrior preparing for the next battle, even if it was just against gravity and failing systems. He found himself admiring her focus, her resilience. And he felt a fierce, protective surge he hadn't anticipated. They might be running, damaged and exposed, but they were running together. And somehow, that made all the difference. Navigating the XK7 nebula was like flying through soup made of static and nightmares. Gravitational eddies tugged at the mech unpredictably, whining alarms protesting the constant stress on the already damaged hull. Sensors were practically useless, filled with ghost signals and interference that made Kale's teeth ache. Zyler piloted with intense concentration, her hands moving surely over the controls, her bioluminescence a steady, focused emerald. Kale monitored the power levels and structural integrity readouts, calling out adjustments, fine-tuning the power distribution to compensate for the gravimetric shear. The neural link remained quiescent, a barely there background hum, but the other connection, the one forged in the cockpit, was palpable. They worked in near silence, anticipating each other's needs, a rhythm developing born of shared crisis. Hard starboard thrust, compensate for that tidal pull. Kale ordered, watching a proximity alert flare red. Zyler complied instantly, the mech groaning in protest but holding course. Power drain spike on the port stabilizer, she reported calmly. Divert auxiliary from inertial dampeners. Do it. We need the stability more than the smooth ride right now. He watched the energy levels reroute, biting his lip. They were burning through reserves faster than he liked. Hours crawled by. The constant tension, the low-frequency vibrations, the sensory deprivation outside the canopy, all wore on Kale's nerves. He caught Zyler rubbing her temple at one point, her glow dimming momentarily. "You okay?" he asked quietly. She nodded stiffly. The interference disrupts neural harmony, a mild discomfort. He suspected it was more than mild, remembering the pain he'd felt through the link during the fight. She was pushing herself hard. He found an old, nutrient-paced packet in his kit, emergency rations he always kept handy. He opened it and offered it to her. "Here, tastes like despair, but it's calories." Zyler looked at the packet, then at him, her expression unreadable. She hesitated, then took it. "My thanks, Kale." She consumed the paste with the same efficiency she did everything else. A small gesture, but it felt significant. A crack in the professional warrior facade. Eventually, the turbulence lessened. They broke through the densest part of the nebula into a relatively calm pocket, a hidden lagoon in the cosmic storm. Before them floated the skeletal remains of an ancient mining platform, silhouetted against the swirling, multicolored gas clouds. There, Kale breathed, relief washing over him. Shelter. Zyler brought the mech in slowly, maneuvering through the skeletal girders of the derelict station, finally settling onto a wide, stable platform deep within the structure, hidden from external scans. She powered down the main thrusters, plunging the cockpit into near silence, broken only by the low hum of life support. "Secure?" Kale asked. Zyler ran a quick scan. "The nebula provides excellent cover. No active energy signatures nearby besides our own residual heat. We are safe for now." They looked at each other in the dim light. The adrenaline of the escape and the tension of the navigation drained away, leaving a different kind of awareness in its place. They had done it, together. "We need rest," Zyler stated, her voice softer again. "And the frame requires time for self-repair diagnostics." "Yeah," Kale agreed, feeling exhaustion creep deep into his bones. "Sleep sounds amazing." He started gathering his discarded tools, preparing to find a corner to curl up in. Kale. He paused, looking back at her. She had swiveled her chair to face him fully. The bioluminescence was back to that deep, swirling azure. The command chair has integrated biosupport functions, nutrient delivery, waste reclamation, induced restorative stasis. She patted the seat beside her, her seat molded around her form. It seemed an impossible suggestion. Yet, "Are you inviting me to share your chair?" he asked incredulously. "It is the most efficient means of ensuring both commanders are rested and combat-ready," she replied, the logical justification sounding slightly rehearsed. Her eyes, however, held a different message, a warmth that belied the formal words. The memory of their earlier intimacy flared between them, charged and undeniable. Sharing her chair meant sharing her space, her proximity, all cycle long. It was practical. It was also incredibly intimate. He looked at the chair, then back at her waiting expression. "Efficiency, right. Okay," he said, dropping his tools with a clatter. "But if you hog the blankets or, the liquid metal, I'm kicking you out." Her lips curved in that dangerous, enticing smile. "I doubt you could, Taryn." He suspected she was right. He settled into the space beside her. The chair immediately began subtly reshaping itself, conforming to his contours, surprisingly comfortable. Zyler initiated the restorative cycle. A low hum filled the cockpit and a pleasant warmth spread through Kale's limbs. He felt his exhaustion deepening, pulling him toward sleep. Zyler shifted slightly, her scaled shoulder brushing against his. Her tail came to rest lightly across his lap. It didn't feel possessive this time, just present. Comfortable. He closed his eyes, the azure glow of her patterns painting swirling images on the inside of his eyelids. He was sharing a high-tech, bio-integrated command chair, inside a damaged alien war machine, hiding in a nebula, with an exiled warrior woman he was accidentally co-commanding and intimately bonded with. His life had officially gone off the rails. And the terrifying part, he wasn't entirely sure he wanted it back on track. Kale woke slowly, feeling surprisingly refreshed. The low hum of the chair's biosupport faded as the restorative cycle ended. He blinked, adjusting to the dim light filtering through the nebula outside the canopy. Zyler was already awake, watching him, her expression calm, the teal glow steady. Her tail was still draped across his legs. He didn't immediately move it. "Sleep well, co-commander?" she asked, her synthesized voice soft. "Surprisingly," he admitted, stretching carefully within the confines of the chair. "No nightmares about killer drones or gravitational vortexes." He paused. "Or giant alien warrior women invading my personal space." Her lips twitched. "My presence is generally considered beneficial. I'll bet." He sat up fully, the chair adjusting around him. Time to face reality. "Okay, status." Zyler turned to her console. "Frame diagnostics complete. Minor systems have rerouted around damaged conduits. Core stability improved by 3%, still critical damage to hull and shields." She brought up the external sensor display. "No sign of pursuit. The nebula interference remains high." "Good, buys us time." Kale rubbed his eyes, trying to think strategically. "We need parts, badly. Can this thing synthesize basic components? Anything to patch the hull?" "Limited fabrication capabilities," Zyler confirmed, bringing up another display. "We can produce basic structural patches, reinforce internal supports, but shield emitters, power conduits, those require external resources." "Which we don't have," Kale sighed. "We're stuck here until we figure something out." He looked around the derelict mining platform visible through the canopy. "Wonder if there's anything salvageable out there." "Scans indicate residual metallic ores and collapsed structural elements," Zyler reported. "No significant energy sources or complex technology detected. Worth a look anyway. Maybe we can cannibalize something for raw materials for the fabricator." He started to get up. "I'll suit up." "Wait." Zyler's hand caught his arm, her grip firm but not painful. "It is hazardous outside, unstable structures, potential radiation pockets. I've handled worse than a rusty old platform, he assured her. I'm a scavenger, remember. It's what I do. Her grip tightened slightly. The frame has a small, remote drone, suitable for reconnaissance and limited material retrieval, less risk. He looked at her surprised. You're worried. A faint flush of emerald tinted the edges of her teal glow. Risk assessment indicates unnecessary personnel exposure, she stated formally. Using the drone is tactically sound. He grinned. Right, tactical soundness, got it. He settled back down. Okay, drone it is. Can you pilot it, or does the co-commander need to supervise? My operational parameters include drone control, she replied dryly, already activating the deployment sequence on her console. A small hatch opened on the mech's flank, and a compact, multi-limbed drone detached itself, hovering silently before zipping out into the skeletal structure of the platform. Zyler's eyes unfocused slightly as she interfaced with the drone, her bioluminescence shifting to a focused emerald. Kale watched the drone's camera feed on the main screen as it navigated the decaying corridors and gantries. It was mostly junk, rusted panels, collapsed beams, defunct machinery. Anything useful? He asked after a while. Trace amounts of polyalloys in the support struts, Zyler murmured, concentrating. Sufficient to synthesize basic hull patches if we can extract enough. The drone extended manipulator arms, carefully cutting sections of metal and placing them in its collection bin. Slow work. Kale watched, feeling restless. He wasn't used to sitting back while someone else did the scavenging. But he also found himself watching Zyler, the way her brow furrowed in concentration, the subtle shifts of light across her skin, the focused intensity she brought to even this mundane task. The bond, the intimacy, hadn't just been a fleeting reaction to crisis. It lingered. A quiet awareness, a pull. He found himself wanting to reach out, to touch her arm, to feel that connection again. He resisted, too soon, too complicated. There, Zyler announced suddenly, pulling her focus back from the drone. Sufficient material collected, recalling drone. The small machine zipped back toward the mech. Fabricator cycle will take approximately 4 hours. 4 hours, Kale echoed. What do we do until then? Zyler turned fully toward him, her emerald gaze softening back to teal, laced with that intriguing blue. We could compare cultural notes, she suggested, her tone deceptively casual. Or, she leaned slightly closer, her voice dropping, the resonance deepening, continue our analysis of mutual energy discharge. He felt his face heat up. Damn her. Cultural notes sound safer, he managed, though his pulse quickened. Zyler's smile was slow, predatory, and utterly captivating. Perhaps, she conceded, the blue light intensifying. But where is the intrigue in safer, Terran Kale? The waiting suddenly didn't seem so bad.